And you can see the screen okay? Everything's good?
Yeah, I show the message that says the meeting is being recorded.
Yeah. Has to do that apparently. Privacy.
Yeah, just so I know for privacy or whatever, probably.
Yep. Yep. That is correct. Well, you've got a squealing in your background.
I do?
Yeah. Oh, it's off now.
Yeah, I muted for a second.
Yep, now it's back. Do you have, what kind of computer are you using?
It's my laptop. I use there's 5 meetings a day.
Is the fan going?
No, I can, well, it might be on my computer.
The computer fan, yeah, I'm just wondering if that might be the case.
Yeah, if that's what it is, then you're just gonna have to live with it, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Trouble connecting to audio, some of these guys.
Yeah, like. I'm seeing that. I don't get that.
Jay's trying with two devices.
Yeah, I think because of the because he was having difficulty, he tried to come on with another device. Good morning, Jay. Can you hear us? Hello.
Looks like
morning,
Tyler.
No, connecting to audio still. This is very odd. You didn't have any challenges connecting this morning, did you, Mickey?
Oh, just clicked on the Zoom link and it was all good.
Okay. Jay, are you able to hear us? Tyler, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We're having some challenges with one of the other guests connecting. So, Jay, are you able to hear us now?
Morning, Ty.
Good morning, Mickey. How are you doing?
Good, you?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good, good. Well, we're hoping we get more than 2 people.
Well, I hope so. We did, like I said, I know a couple. I didn't recognize some of the names that did log on, but there was a bunch of them. Not log on, but registered.
Yeah.
I don't recognize Tyler or Jay, so.
I know Tyler. Tyler and I do some networking together.
No, but what I mean is I don't recognize them from the responses we got for people that registered.
That's always a problem with these free registrations. People register and sign up, but they didn't put any skin in the game. They may or may not show up.
Yeah, this is true. Well, we'll wait a few minutes. So how do you two know each other?
We just met through a joint networking group that we're part of probably a year or so ago. So Tyler was on the list of people that when I sent out my swath of invites. So
yeah.
And we still do some networking together. Tyler's been a referral partner of mine in the past and that sort of thing. So
awesome.
Yeah. Met through Rick Burley and continued our relationship through PGIB.
And PGIB is what?
Progressive Group for Independent Business run by Craig Chandler.
Okay. Never heard of them, but that sounds like a good networking group. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning.
How are you this fine morning?
Yeah, good. Thank you. And you?
Good.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not used to Zoom, so maybe still. Do you see me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay,
everything seems good, Jay.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm using my cell phone and the screen is a little small. My PC doesn't back up for the audio and video, so I'm using my cell phone from now.
That's fine. What works for you?
Thanks.
Okay, so we're just going to wait a couple more minutes to see if we have any more people joining.
Sure.
How did you hear about us today here, Jay?
Yeah, it's very good so far, but I'm running the UPS store in downtown Sunco building. And as you may know, the downtown is partially locked or the closed. Recently, we have the good news that the building is opening to the people, and our building still some of the retailers are closed. But hopefully, the after the uh, vaccination, the second shot is well done, then people will come. And there's a saying from September, the building staff, mostly Sunco building staff, will coming back to work, which triggering the the sales is picking up as normal, hopefully. So we
Yeah,
have to see, yeah. But still,
yeah,
we've been a little bit slow, yeah.
yeah. Downtown. If you've been relying on downtown traffic, it's been a pretty rough year, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's true.
Nikki, good morning. Glad to have you join us.
Good morning.
We're just going to wait for about another minute and a half, see if anybody else joins us, and then we'll kick
Perfect.
it off.
Nikki, how did you hear about us?
I heard about this through Brad. Brad and I and another colleague, Jennifer, who's going to be joining us very quick soon, are with PEO Canada.
Ah,
So we
I know
are,
PEO. I know.
yeah.
Who do I know? They're Hannah and Jen. Are they still there?
Jen is going to join us. Yep. And Hannah is no longer here. Actually, I'm the new Hannah.
You're the new
Oh.
Hannah, the new and
Yeah.
improved version.
Yeah. Yeah.
so who are the owners of PEO again?
What's his name? Trevor. Hold on. That's how new I am. Trevor Catlin Koff.
Pretty big outfit. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to place the name of your. I think I don't know if he's the GM or the sales manager or what he was, but I met him at. I guess I was at your Stampede function a couple years ago.
Uh-huh.
We were allowed to have Stampede function. It was
Right.
one of the great parties, I recall.
Yeah.
Morning, Danny. We got you out of bed, did we?
Yeah, what the hell are you guys doing starting this so early?
I know.
Isn't that
You
something?
told me you had to get to go to the washroom anyway, so you might.
That's what happened. That's what happened. Alarm went off, had to go to the bathroom, so then I decided to stay up and get
There
on
you
here.
go. So Nikki, I used to have an office in your old building, in your building downtown there many years ago.
There you go. And the building is still standing. Thanks for leaving it standing.
Well, you know what? The time that we were living there, the owners of PEO at the time had been entertaining an offer for a huge dollar amount of money to buy that land because somebody wanted to put a 35-story mixed use building on that property.
Jennifer's just calling me, so let me put you on mute and I'm going to answer her call.
You bet.
Yeah, that's the last one-story building in downtown Calgary, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's huge value. The owners of that property, the deal fell through due to financing or something, if I recall correctly. But
Probably should have sold 2 years ago before the pandemic and would have done a little better. I don't think
You know what?
downtown values are what they used to be.
no, this is true. Okay, we're just going to wait till Nikki gets back, and then we'll launch. But her associate might be having a challenge getting online. Calgary Renovation Contractors are joining us.
Yeah, that's Elaine. She's part of my group too.
Okay.
Morning, Elaine.
That's better. Hi, Mickey.
How are you this morning?
Good, you?
Good, thanks. Got you up early today.
Yeah. My normal is 8:15.
Well, there you go. We're close to that. Just had a couple people with some minor technical issues, so we're just holding off for a sec.
Yeah, I had to scramble to find the darn thing. That's the thing about it, I find with Eventbrite, because I do it for my events as well, is that you don't always get the link.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
So it's not just me? Okay. Because then
No.
I'm thinking to myself, I booked something in my schedule. Now I can't find the darn thing. So I got to carry out with my day. I find it very frustrating with Eventbrite.
Yeah, typically the best thing to do is put it into a link or embed it right in the invitation, right? So. Good morning,
Exactly. And
Jennifer.
they don't always do that. Yeah.
Nikki, you're back.
Morning, Jen.
Are we able to find our friend? Oh, you're on mute.
There you go. Now I'm not on mute.
Morning, Jen. How you been?
How are you?
Good, Mickey. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Rob Welke and I'm with Mexit. Brad is unable to make it today. He had an urgent call come up, so I'm one of his partners with Mexit, so I volunteered to step in as the only other party to do it, and I'll be running the meeting this morning. So our session this morning is on increase the sale of your business by stopping profit leaks. And before we get started, I'd like everybody to introduce themselves, if they could, please. Let's start with Nikki.
Oh, there you go. Well, I am Nikki Walker and I am a business development consultant with PEO Canada.
Awesome, thank you. How about you, Tyler?
My name is Tyler Lindsay. I run a referral business called Referral Man. Currently, I'm putting together a group of people to go golfing every couple of weeks and do some networking out on the golf course.
Awesome. How about you, Jay?
Yeah, I'm Jay Kim, and the owner and operator of the UPS store in the Stoneport Building downtown. I run the business for 15 years, and we're a little bit struggle with the slow situation in downtown, but hopefully the situation will be getting better.
Awesome. Hopefully as well. Yes. Danny.
I am Vice President of Operations for Action Coach, and I also am a principal in a franchise called Instant Imprints, based out of San Diego.
Awesome. Good morning, Elaine. Elaine, are we there?
Sorry, I unmuted myself and then I muted again. My name is Elaine Coates with the Calgary Renovation Contractors Association, and I run a networking organization for construction people, mainly renovations, renovators, trade suppliers, and very related professional services in the renovation industry.
Awesome. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Schab. I too am a business development consultant with PEO Canada, and we provide outsourcing, payroll and HR solutions for SMEs.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everybody. Again, Rob Welke with Mexit, and let's kick this off. One of the problems that we've got in Canada, quite frankly, is we have some challenges with our small businesses. About 1 in 10 business owners actually can sell as planned. 40% of business owners are planning to exit within the next 5 years, if you can believe that. And that was actually verified a couple of weeks ago by the Canadian Chartered Professional Accounting Association and the BDC. Most of a business owner's net worth is locked up in their business. And the result is that about 2/3 of them just close their doors when the owner retires, which is not really good for the local communities, the industry, or the region. 80% of the businesses that get put up for sale don't sell. Of the 20% that do, only half get what they want. So we have a problem in Canada, and we need to help address it. And that's what Mexit actually is all about. So what if you've built a successful business, how do you proactively maximize the value on exit? Well, one of the ways you can do that is through our Mexit process, which is a framework we've created that focuses on maximizing value, transacting the value effectively, and then transferring the value to the new owner in a manner that allows them to take the company that they've just purchased and take it to the next level. It's a proven framework with the people, tools, and process to ensure a successful exit, because most of the value is created before the deal, not in the deal. And that's what a lot of owners don't seem to recognize is they go to talk to the owners, they go to talk to valuators, they go to talk to brokers before they actually are ready to do that. So we use a process, which is a strategic planning framework that we've created. And it's a conscious framework, started well before the deal with clear strategic goals, planned action, executed well, producing the maximum value when it is time for you to exit. So today our special guest speaker is Mickey Pendergast, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about stopping profit leaks in your business. And how does that apply to maximizing the value? Well, one of the things that a buyer is going to look for is EBITDA, because the significant part of the valuation of a business is evaluating the profit streams and future profit streams. So understanding how to maximize your profit is critical. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mickey with Schooley Mitchell.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Robert. So yeah, that's really what we're talking about today. And I'll give you a quick, just a real brief background of myself. I was self-employed for 20 plus years in the food business, where I learned some very difficult lessons about how to grow a business and how to sell a business and how to become profitable. So I learned the hard way about big difference. The big lesson, I guess, is the difference between revenue and profit, which is what we're going to try and talk about today. So it was, I did eventually successfully sell my business, and then I went and worked in sales, and then moved over to operations for a larger distribution company. I learned a lot there from the ownership group about how to analyze your monthly P&L and how to make sure that you're remaining profitable while focusing on all aspects of the business. So you can put up the next slide, Rob. So I'm no expert in business valuation, but there is a few things I learned over the years, and a couple of things we're going to touch on today, as Rob mentioned. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with the term EBITDA. Some people call it cash flow or profit. It really is essentially, it's typically used as a benchmark when you're selling your business. It's different from industry to industry, but really quite often the sale price of your business is a multiple of this number. It's just the best way to sort of boil it down at the end of the day. There's other things like, can your business grow? Is it capable of growing? Has it been growing? Those types of things. There's a risk level based on your industry, perhaps your financial situation, that your business valuator or your broker will look at to determine the value of your business. And then obviously there's other factors about how marketable is your business or to your type of business. Do you have documented processes? And these are the kind of things that Rob and his group would be very, very proficient at. And other things about how are your owners compensated and all the rest of it. But really what we're going to focus on today is how managing the cost side of your business can impact the eventual sale price. And Rob made a really good point that typically it's not if you're trying to sell your business today, it's not going to be worth nearly as much as if you make the plan 3 to 5 years in advance, take care of your numbers, make sure you've got some strong EBITDA to go to market with, and maximize the sale value by doing so. So I didn't invent this little slogan here, but I heard it at another webinar I was on a few years ago. Might have actually been the old-fashioned in-person kind of presentation, I don't recall, but it really is a strong lesson. And it's one of the, if nothing else sticks with you today, I really would like you to try and remember this little slogan, which is revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is king. That's just such an important lesson to learn. I know I can tell you as I grew my business back in the day, started with a small business doing a couple $100,000 a year and only one part-time employee and decent margins, and I was making an okay living for a young guy in a new business. But I wanted to grow my business, so I kept growing and adding locations and adding sales, and took on a partner in a bunch of locations. And next thing you know, fast forward 10 or 15 years, and we're doing $4 million a year, and I'm not getting a paycheck. And it was kind of hard for me to understand, like, as I was thinking of, used to have a $200,000 business, now I've got a $4 million business, and why am I not getting a paycheck? It's because we were focused on revenue growth for growth's sake and growth at all costs, and we didn't take care of our margin, didn't take care of our expenses, and we weren't focusing on profit as much as we should have been. I like the third one just as a sort of a learning. Profit and cash flow aren't always the same thing. If, for example, you've got, even if you're not in a cash business, if you're in a business where you've got receivables, you might show profit on paper, but if your suppliers have you on 7 to 15 days or something like that, and you're giving your clients 30 or 60 days, you might be showing profit, but you're going to have a real gap in cash flow. So revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. That's something that is the key takeaway for today. So we can move on to the next slide, Rob. So we're going to talk as much as we can about managing your costs, strategies to do that, and why it's important. So I found a couple quotes from guys smarter than me. They're not all that hard to find actually, but anyways, I was listened to a Tony Robbins podcast. So I paraphrased one of the things he said, that the most direct way to increase profits is to reduce expenses. And we're going to show that to you in a later slide. And Benjamin Franklin said, I think he used the guy who said a penny saved is a penny earned. It's very much the same thing. He also said that beware of little expenses, a small leak will sink a great ship. So yeah, this is nothing new. This is just an area that a lot of people don't focus on, and that's sort of the message for today. Is we have to continue to focus on those parts of our business. Go ahead, Rob. So this is something again that I learned over the years, and a lot of smart business owners do this, but a lot of them don't pay as much attention as they should.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's really important to. Can we mute Jay? Anyways, obviously, you need to track your sales, your revenue. That's obviously an important part of the business. But if you're not doing a good job of tracking your expenses, understanding where the revenue is ending up being spent, then you're going to have trouble understanding why your business is making more profitable or why it isn't as profitable as it should be. Important distinction between cost of goods sold and your expenses. So if you're selling widgets, you need to know how much they cost wholesale, then whatever your margins are to sell them retail. But we're going to talk more about the expense side of the business. And there's two categories that are important to understand. One is your fixed expenses. That think of that in terms of things that money you spend, whether you're busy or slow, or even sometimes open or closed. Things like your overhead rent, maybe leased equipment, utilities, things like that. That you have to write those checks whether you're busy or not. I'm sure Jay can relate to that in the sense that he's had, even though his business has gone down with the downturn in traffic downtown, he still got rent and basic expenses. Variable expenses are ones that change as your business gets busier or slower. So for example, if you're in retail, you know the Saturdays are going to be busy, you bring on more staff, those types of things that go up and down as your sales go up and down, but outside your cost of goods. And I always like those when I do my P&L, I'll get my bookkeeper to express those as a percentage of sales. If I'm going to examine a sales category or an expense category, compare month to month or year to year, if it's expressed as a percentage of sales, it's much easier to make a quick determination of where you're trending to go, getting better or worse, and where you can take action if you need to. So that's always been an important part to me of making that analysis. So I would recommend that happen. But anyways, we're talking about EBITDA. So revenue at the top minus all those other lines. Hopefully there's some EBITDA left at the end of the day. But we can't work towards creating that EBITDA unless we really understand those expense categories in the middle of the page there. So it's a big part of what we do. And what's really important, I guess the message is, we have to grow revenue. If we want to grow our business and succeed and continue to become profitable, growing revenue is absolutely critical, of course. But that's the fun part of the business, right? Landing a new client or signing a new deal or launching a new line or opening another location. Those are fun, exciting, inspiring parts of being in business. It's not as much fun to renegotiate your lease or make some hard decisions around staffing or grind out a deal with the phone company or the insurance guy or whatever. That's not the fun part of the business, but it's not an either or conversation. You can't just cut costs to grow your business, and you can't just grow sales to grow your business. You really need to manage both sides of it. So that's really the message for today, is that it's you have to focus on both sides. The best run businesses really pay attention to both sides of that coin. Go ahead, Rob, next slide. So I've got an oversimplified illustration here just to sort of give you an idea of how impacting those two parts of your business can make a difference. So this pie represents your revenue. So this reminds me of one of my old businesses. So it's very simple to talk about by looking at these numbers. So the pie represents your revenue, your annual revenue of $600,000, let's say in this particular business. So on the right-hand side, you'll see the $300,000. That's our cost of goods. So if I'm selling whatever I'm selling, let's say I'm selling, I don't know, one of my old businesses, we sold food equipment. So typically we would, if we bought something for $1,000, we'd sell it for $2,000. If we bought it for $300, we'd sell it for $600 and so on. So our cost of goods is roughly half of our selling price. And it was a fairly competitive industry. So that was really kind of the best we could do. That's where we had to be competitive. So that's our cost of goods. But the 240,000 in this illustration represents your expenses. So it's a combination of your fixed expenses, your variable expenses, like your lease, your labor, all your costs associated with doing business. So in this particular case, this business, there's $60,000 in profit or EBITDA. So if this is a small business run by an individual, they're making themselves a living. And this is sort of the basic outline of it. Again, very simplified, but it's just for illustration purposes. So let's say now you want to try and grow this business. Let's say you're going to get aggressive and grow this business to $700,000 next year in terms of your top line revenue. So, and what is going to be the impact of that? Well, first of all, if you're going to grow it to $700,000, then the best thing to do is raise prices. If you can raise prices, that's absolutely the best, fastest way to grow the top line. Isn't always doable. Your competitors are happy when you raise your prices and your customers are unhappy. So, that's sort of the caveat there. I would raise prices whenever I can, but you have to be careful, you don't scare away all your customers. But let's say in this case, you're in a competitive industry and you can't raise your prices and still keep your business. So you're going to try and grow it to $700,000 by whatever technique you use. It might be Google ads or flyers, or maybe you hire a new sales guy or whatever it is. But in any case, there's an investment required to grow your business by, in this case, 17%. It doesn't just fall out of the sky. So that costs money. So that's $600,000 to $700,000. Although it's $100,000 in additional revenue, we know $50,000 of that's going to cost of goods. And the history shows us here that only 10% of our revenue turns out to be profit. But you can make the argument that some of your expenses are going to stay the same. So it wouldn't just be a $10,000 bottom line bump. It would be somewhere between 10 and 50. So whatever that number looks like, maybe it's 20 or 30. So the story is you grow your sales by $100,000 to try and get another 20 or 30 to the bottom line after the cost of goods and the investment in whatever marketing campaign you use. So let's say you're going to look hard now at your expenses. You're going to look at that $240,000 in expenses, and you're going to say, you know what, maybe we can renegotiate our lease, or maybe I've got some overtime. I'm going to cut out overtime or move someone from full-time to part-time, or I'm going to call all my vendors, phone company, utilities company, whoever it might be, and try and grind out better deals, find some ways to save money there. So I've got a target of reducing that overall by 25%. And see what happens there. Next slide, Rob. So now we see that if we didn't look at our sales growth, we just tried to look at how reducing our expenses can impact our profit. So you see here, we didn't get a single extra customer. We didn't add a single extra sale. We still have $600,000 in revenue. Obviously, we still have $300,000 in cost of goods because that didn't change. But we reduced that 240,000 to 180,000. So we were successful with our 25% cost reduction. So sales increase was 0, right? Revenue increase was 0. Profit doubled from $60,000 to $120,000. So again, this is a fictional situation. It's not easy to do 25,000, but I just wanted to sort of make that illustration and make that point. Every dollar that you cut in expenses drops straight to the bottom of the page and becomes profit. This is a lesson that I learned the hard way over the years, and was really re-emphasized when I went and worked for one of my former suppliers, a distribution company. The leader of that company was very focused on both sides of that coin and did a great job of motivating salespeople and growing the business. But he was really, really analytical on the costs, and every penny that got spent, he knew where it went and why. And it ended up being an extremely successful company for that reason. So that's really the message that I wanted to make sure everyone was able to take away from this first part of the conversation today, is that there's a lesson to be learned around growing sales, but falling in love with revenue without paying attention to the expense side is going to end up costing you money in the long run. So you want to keep your business successful and growing and strong. Think in terms of profit, which is generated by obviously the sales, but by managing those expenses, understanding your margins, making sure your margins are strong, understanding your expenses and where your money is going, tracking that with monthly P&Ls or whatever tools you use to track monthly, and then make smart decisions going forward so that you're thinking hard about profit, which is the whole picture of your business. It's not just sales, it's not just expenses, it's the combination of the two. So that was really sort of the end of the first section, Rob. Any questions or comments, or do you want to move into the discussion part?
Let's move right into the discussion. So for the next part of this presentation, what we want to do is we want to talk a little bit about this information that Mickey's given us. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to have everybody self-reflect for 2 minutes. We're not going to break into more groups because we've got a small group here, but I'd like everybody to think for 2 minutes on the 3 questions that are up on the screen. And then after that 2 minutes, I'd like to go through everybody and talk a little bit about how these questions impact their business. So before we get going, is there any questions? Awesome.
For me, I'm just going to make a couple of notes because I run my own business now. So I'm going to spend the next minute or two just making notes on what I do to manage expenses and what I've done in the past, so I can contribute here.
Excellent. All right, so let's start the 2 minute timer and think about it and reflect on it. And in 2 minutes, I'll go through everybody and we'll chat a little bit about this.
And really pay attention to that third bullet there. In your business, how much effort are you spending on growing your sales compared to controlling your costs? If you can think of that in terms of I don't know, like a ratio, maybe you're spending twice as much effort growing sales as costs, or you're spending, is it 50-50? Just something to consider. If there's an effort being put into both, then how do they compare?
Oops, sorry. So let's start with Nikki.
I must be at the top of your screen.
No, I'm really good at randomizing.
Oh, there you go. That's funny. Okay. I'm here to learn about what you're doing, and my role is more consultative in the helping to look after the employees and the human aspect of exiting your business. So I don't run a business.
But you're more in a business development role, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm
so
not sure that I can really
Sales
speak.
is your focus. Do you
Sales
hear
is my
conversation?
focus.
Do you and Jen hear conversation around the office around controlling expenses in any way, or are you just focused on the client?
We're mostly just focused on the client.
Fair
So-
enough.
And I'll let Jen speak.
Okay,
Yeah, I can, from, on behalf of both of us. So this was very interesting and for us to be a part of because yes, we are sales focused, but it's important for us to be able to understand exactly because our goal is when we when we introduce PEO Canada to our client or a prospect, one of the things that we do discuss is exactly that, controlling costs. We are an outsourced solution. So we want to be part of that solution to control the costs and bring down the overhead. So that's kind of where our role is. So I'm very interested to hear exactly what the responses are from the business owners in regards to the cost control. And I think this would go a long way in developing out our conversations.
Yeah, that's interesting, Jen, that you're using as an outsourced HR solution, you're using cost control as a sales tool, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect.
awesome. Elaine. Oh, you're on mute.
Hi. Well, my companies are quite small, like they're not, big going concerns, so to speak. I mean, I have an impact to my industry, but so I guess with my revenue is somewhat unknown in that it's not like I don't have a retail store or I don't have a product to sell, so to speak. So it's a service industry. So controlling my revenue is really uncontrollable, not in my hands, probably 70% not in my hands, because a lot of my clients find me, so to speak. So that's me marketing in the background. So it's kind of like shooting into a barrel. I'm not 100% in control of the revenue per se. I know that sounds crazy, but so as far as rate, and then number two, their rating, the effectiveness, I'd have to say it's probably not my strongest suit by a long shot. So to compare my efforts on growing sales and cost control, literally just recently I thought, I better get a grip on that because yes, in the next 5 years, definitely want to sell my companies. So that's where because I can't 100% control my revenue and the clients per se, but I can control my costs and my spending.
So Elaine, can I ask you, how do you earn your revenue?
Through membership. So my networking associations are membership based on annual membership, event sponsorship, page sponsorship. So those things I can control, but as far as the actual membership numbers, that I just work day to day. And again, if you throw enough at a wall, something's going to stick, I guess. So that's kind of.
Yeah. So a question I have on that is, do you measure how effective you've been on adding new members?
Well, ironically, through COVID, quite good. But again, it sort of comes at me.
So
within
if
reason.
I asked you if you had how much growth on a percentage basis, how many more members this year do you have over last year? Those kinds of numbers is what I'm driving towards.
Not quite double. So I'd say maybe 60% growth.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's fabulous. But so you actually do have control over your revenue a little bit, right? Because you had the opportunity to grow a little bit during COVID. So
I mean, I'm a workhorse, there's no doubt. So I mean, it pays off, but I mean, I don't always know where it comes from. Not that I don't know where it comes from, but I don't know if it's coming. So my efforts aren't concrete. Yeah.
Right, but from my understanding, Elaine, because I know you fairly well, but if you were to try and do projections of your sales, you'd have even though you're right, your members come and go and it's hard to predict, but you have probably a pretty good handle on how many you might lose through attrition or people that shut down or move away or whatever, or just give up their membership. But year over year, how many of them stick around. And then the growth is, you're right, it's a little bit hard to guess. But I think a lot of businesses could say that. I don't know where my growth is coming from. I just keep doing the right activities to try and grow it.
Yeah.
But, 60% growth is spectacular, really. A lot of people have gone the other direction in the last 15 months. So good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd like to move on. Jay, how about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on this. Oh, you're on mute again. Let me see if I can ask you to unmute.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. After the pandemic, as the downtown, the shutdown and excuse me, slow down, no customers in this building. We used to be 5,000 people working and in this building. Now the people say it's about 500 to 1,000 people only. So my business is affected by that, and sales dropped about 30%. And under this situation, we tried to expand our sales, but actually it didn't work out well. So as you guys mentioned, then I'm focusing on the put more efforts to reduce the cost. So most of the time we used to have 2-3 steps, but mostly I'm running the store by myself and the part-time staff. So I think under this situation, until the COVID is over, the cost management is the key factor to keep our business going. And under this situation, the cut the cost, and the cost control is the best factor to run my business.
Right. Excellent. Thank you, Jay. Danny, your thoughts?
In my own business, cost control is at the top of the heap because I don't move from this chair unless I'm on full expenses. So I keep my costs down to nothing. But I put a lot of people into business, and I sell a lot of businesses, including Jay's. And so the cost effectiveness of the expenses, the controlling costs, is key. It's you said, how would I rate effectiveness in this area? Well, for me, it's very high, and for many of the store owners, not like Jay. Jay controls costs very well, but most of the store owners are so focused on revenue that they miss the cost aspect altogether. And I would say that if we're looking at a ratio, they're focused on revenue growth, probably 3 to 1 compared to expenses. And what Jay said was really key inside the pandemic. He has a disadvantage of the other UPS stores, which were asked to be kept open because they were needed and wanted during the pandemic. Is his particular building was closed to the public, whereas the other stores, in regular storefront plaza, could be open to the public. So he had that added dimension as well, and hasn't had the same kind of growth. A lot of the UPS stores are having some of their best growth during this pandemic, and that hasn't happened for Jay. But the control of expenses on the other side, I know people inside the Instant Imprints franchise, they're also having some of their top profits ever in their life, and it all has to do with not revenue growth, because that's not an essential service, but with the control of their expenses.
So Danny, is this part of your whether it's your training or your coaching or your leadership for your franchisees to help them understand the flip side of this equation?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have inside Instant Imprints, we have a process we call the trailing 12 months. It's a form for them to fill out each month, and they will go to, the owners will typically focus on what the revenue was for the month, what we did and what the sales mix was, and we'll look at the profit margins, and we look at that. And when they send the form to me, I go right to their expenses, because inside that model we have exactly what each expense, and in the same case for Jay in the UPS store, we know exactly what the expense should be as a percentage of sales, and we look for what's out of whack. Now, where you come in, Mickey, is we look, the 3 highest expenses are the lease to the landlord, the leases on the equipment, and the payroll. And so those are the easiest things to look at if those are inside the percentages. And if the other ones are okie dokie, then we as a franchisor, that's okay, they're okie dokie. Then when you come in, you get down to the nuts and bolts of everything else inside there, right? We can make recommendations on payroll and leases and all that stuff. And in some cases, 10 times your rent to the landlord, there's nothing else to make that fit into the model except increased revenue. But
Right.
when you get down to all the other smaller expenses of the business, that's where you have the highest value. Because I've experienced that before with Scully Mitchell, what they've done for a store.
Danny, I got to commend you because not a lot of people understand what the T12M is, and it is a fabulous tool for steering the ship.
Yeah, I've never actually used that T12, the trailing 12-month form, but it's critical. Like I said earlier, when you're looking at your P&L, whether it's last month or last quarter or last year, and doing your year-over-year comparisons or month over month, it is looking in the rearview mirror. But it really sometimes is the only way to create a remote roadmap going forward, just to understand where you've been.
Exactly.
So it's a lagging indicator, but nonetheless, it does give you some really good information. Especially, I found, if you can identify trends. If you can look at this April versus last April, why is one expense category higher? Or even on the revenue side, how come this is doing so much better? What are we doing right here? Or is there a category that's taking off sales wise? And let's figure out why. Or maybe it's due to some marketing efforts. So you spent some money on marketing and nothing did happen. So why? But so you need that information to make decisions. Otherwise, you're just feeling around in the dark, right? So that's great, Danny. And it's just such a big lesson to learn, is that it's not an either or conversation, right? It's an and conversation. I have to look at the revenue and expenses, right?
Exactly. I'd just like to get on to Tyler before we have to close off this part of the session. So Tyler, any thoughts?
Well, for myself, I'm the one that runs the business, and I really do my best to keep the costs down as little as possible. I don't have a lot of resources, so I try to keep my costs down to as little as possible, right? Last year I was selling hand sanitizer and I brought on a few salespeople, so I paid them strictly commission. I'd never bought the product up front. I placed once an order went through, and then kept the profits from the orders that actually went through. So I was able to not have to spend that money up front. So I'd say for me, my control costs are probably, I probably spend more time controlling costs than I spend on developing revenue, which it definitely helps keep costs down, but not, well, that's what you're focusing on, right?
Yeah, you need sales too, but yeah, no, that was a good point you made about not carrying inventory. If you can find a way to run a business without carrying inventory, that's nice. You don't have your cash tied up on the shelves. You can use it for other things. So,
Yep.
So good for you. And I know you're starting out, so good for you, Tyler, to have this stuff, a handle on this stuff early on in your entrepreneurial career.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mickey. I'm glad I met you early on, because I definitely got a good lesson early.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's good.
Excellent. So you know what? One of the things that focus on cost management has been a really important part of the last year in business, running your business last year. So I think more people are focused on it, but quite frankly, I don't think they focus enough on it, and they don't look at the trends in their costs as much as they typically should. But you know, I probably have seen a lot more businesses focus on costs. But I think a lot of them are really worried about sales more than they are about costs. And that's kind of unfortunate, because it's like Mickey said, it's not an and or, it's not an or, it's an and. So I'd just like to go on to the next section. Away you go, Mickey.
Sure. So thanks, Rob. So we talked earlier about knowing your numbers and how important it is to understand your numbers, because you can't make decisions about what's going to happen next in your business until you understand what happened previously in your business. So, pardon me. So, my consulting practice focuses solely on controlling costs, reducing expenses, and managing your dollars going out the back door. So, one of the first things you have to do on the top line there, knowledge of your current costs. And I find through my experience as a business owner, and now as a consultant, and when I worked in corporate, as well as the business owners I talk to now, Most of them make some efforts, as we just finished in our previous conversation, about managing your costs internally. And for Jen and Nikki, it's about talking to your clients and how do they probably try to manage their costs internally through their own initiatives or their own staff or whatever resources they might have. I do meet clients who they have a certain amount of clout. They have a vendor they've worked with for a long time, and they trust that their vendor is going to take good care of them so they don't lose them as a customer. So they kind of turn that over to their vendor and trust that they will remain competitive so they don't lose the business. That has some pros and cons, and it might work. But all this laundry list of things here, I'm just going to touch on briefly. You know, the third option that we bring to our clients is that we manage those costs as a third party. As Danny mentioned, we look at the stuff that's not usually looked at first. People will quite often, if they need to cut costs like Jay did there, you had to cut some staff, which is an awfully difficult decision to make, but you know, you got to keep the business alive. So that's quite often the first place people go to. And then they might look at other big ticket items, whether it's marketing or whether it's leases or whether it's your overhead for your occupancy. Those are the first places that people cut, but mostly because they don't have time, or they maybe don't get the bang for their buck. If you're going to grind out your phone bill or your waste bill or your courier costs or whatever, they're not the big ticket items, and your limited resources, and how much can you actually impact them, and is it worth your trouble? So the other thing, the second line there, knowledge of market alternatives. If you do that, if you're managing your costs internally, you might be aware of the entire market. Some are, some aren't. Your vendor, of course, should be aware of who his competitors are. Obviously, someone who specializes in cost management would know them all, but we'll just skip through these. The independent, whether you can independently, objectively evaluate the marketplace and make decisions around who your vendors are going to be. Obviously, a business owner or a financial decision maker inside a business can make those decisions independently and objectively. A vendor, of course, is not independent or objective. They're there to try and keep the business. And more often than not, they're trying to grow the size of that customer, grow the sales. Most specialized analysis tools, most businesses don't have any internal tools other than just sort of trying to work hard to pay attention to this stuff. There's no specialized tools. Obviously, a vendor doesn't have those things. Is there a pricing database with inside knowledge on all the vendors? Well, some businesses have that from using multiple vendors over the years or from collecting data, but it's usually not something that they focus on. A lot of vendors will know the knowledge, will have the knowledge of their competitors' pricing. Obviously, it's something we do on a daily basis because we deal with all the vendors. How much negotiating clout do you have? Some big companies have quite a bit of clout, or some people join an organization to get that clout, that buying power. And that's something that we bring to the table on a daily basis. Is there a research and development department? Well, obviously a typical business owner doesn't have anything like that. Some vendors have that. They've got a real good sort of finger on the pulse of where the market is going and what's going to happen next, especially in areas like telecom and technology, where things are changing so quickly. Hard for business owners to stay on top of that while they're trying to run their business. Analysts review the costs. Some businesses have, if you're big enough, you might have, say, supply chain people or procurement specialists, or maybe you've got a CFO or a controller that spends a lot of time on this sort of thing. But these are the kinds of tools you need internally to try and be effective in these areas. And a lot of small businesses just absolutely don't have that sort of thing, or the time to audit the bills and pay attention to what the options are every month. That's, again, to Danny's point, that's the stuff that gets bumped to the side of the desk while you pay attention to your customers and your employees and maybe your big ticket items. And then the rest, whether you're accessing the direct access to the vendors, you might know your sales rep, but do you know anyone at higher levels to have any impact on your costs? Probably not. Obviously, the business owner is motivated to continue to reduce costs. The vendor is obviously not. They're at cross purposes there. we're an outsourced cost management company that works on contingency like we do. We're motivated the same as our clients are to reduce costs. Our only compensation is a share of the savings that we find. So we're motivated the same as our clients are to reduce those costs. So it puts us, because we're vendor neutral, we're on the opposite side we're on the same side of the desk as a client, not as the vendor. And obviously, we've got multiple consultants across all markets in North America, so we've got some inside knowledge and some leverage there about best-in-class pricing. So those are the kinds of things, those are the kinds of tools that you need in your toolbox if you want to, first of all, know your costs, and then the different strategies and techniques that you're going to use to try and reduce your costs. A lot of these would apply to larger businesses more than maybe the people on this call today, but really, if you pick out the highlights of the ones that are pertinent to your business, it's still part of the day-to-day strategy of reducing your costs. It comes down to knowledge. To me, knowledge is power. You have to know your costs, and you have to know the alternatives, and you have to have the resources to apply that knowledge to have some impact. And that's usually where the rubber hits the road, and it's really hard to manage. Like Jay is kind of the one-man show there, right? He's got to do it all himself. Does he have time to grind out a new deal with the phone guy or renegotiate his lease while he's trying to keep the doors open? It's a tough task. So that's this end of this slide, Rob. So whether you're going to strategize around cutting costs yourself or outsource it, and this comes back to Jen's comment around outsourcing, whether it's you're talking about your cost control or your HR or a variety of other tasks or parts of your business, you have to make a decision whether it's something that you have the resources and the time to do effectively yourself, or if there's something you feel like you can outsource and maybe do better, and then you can focus on your core business or your core skills of running your business. But in any case, the first bullet says executive sponsorship, and that's just a fancy way of saying the boss has to buy into this concept. A lot of bosses come from started the business themselves, and they're focused on sales, like Rob mentioned, and Danny said the same thing, thinking only about revenue. So if the boss doesn't buy into the concept of managing your expenses and controlling your costs, then the whole project is probably not going to proceed, not going to succeed either. So, and it's not really, it shouldn't be looked at as a project. This should be looked at as just an organic, granular way of running your business on a day-to-day basis. This has to be developing new habits, if you don't have them already, around managing those expenses. As we said, it's not an either or. This has to be part of your day-to-day. So when you're spending time growing sales, someone in the organization has to be spending time reducing expenses or managing those costs or examining those numbers. And if you don't have resources to do it yourself, then you should find someone who do. I've got some clients that have great accountants that play a really strong advisory role and help them out in this area. Not everyone has access to that. So, but it has to come from the top. There has to be some initiative and some energy put into the concept of controlling costs. So the first step that is typically done is, if you've never done it before, is to sort of have a real hard look at what your costs are, benchmark those against what your competitors or your colleagues are doing in business, and do a market review. A market review might be as simple as phoning a couple of suppliers and getting some prices. For a larger organization, it might be a full-blown RFQ or RFP to get the request for proposal if it's a large expenditure. But that takes usually weeks and months of work. It's extremely expensive for a large organization to do it, to put out that document and then collect the quotes and then review it. But for a small organization, it's as simple as putting together a request for calling suppliers and getting some quotes. But either way, it has to be done. If you want to do a comparison, any kind of analysis, you have to know what's out there, right? So, and then of course you're going to make the presentation to the boss or to the decision maker once you've sort of collected all these numbers and understand what the options are. You put that presentation together, and then between whoever deciding, whether it's the business owner or perhaps the CFO or the controller, is going to select the best option, and then implement the decision, whether it's the It's just a simple re-rate from your existing provider through your negotiation skills or success, or whether you're going to move to a different provider and start open new accounts, that sort of thing. The implementation can be a bit of a job as well. And then the key point, pardon me, one of the key points, as I've mentioned, is the ongoing monitoring. I think we've all probably had the experience where you work hard to try and reduce your costs, and you get some better pricing from maybe the phone company or something like that. And then you find out 6 months or 12 months down the road that you're paying what you used to pay. And what happened? They say, oh, that was a temporary promotion. But if you didn't catch the fact that it went up, then you're back to where you started. So ongoing monitoring by your internal people or by whoever you choose to outsource it to, that ongoing monthly or quarterly reporting to make sure that you're staying on top of it. There are no new fees, no fees, no rate increases. All those types of things are part of what you have to do to stay on top of the stuff on a daily basis. So that's it for this slide. So we just a couple of examples of things that can happen. Someone that we worked with recently, a sort of a small to medium accounting office. A portion of their credit, their sales came through credit cards. They're spending about 12 grand a year on fees, and we were able to reduce that to 8,800. So 27% decrease in that. Again, it's a small category. It's 3 grand. It's not life-changing money, but it's $3,200 that would have gone to the credit card company instead into the pockets of the owner, or to use for some internal investment or whatever they want to use it for. But I always say it's your money. You should be taking care of it. Every dollar counts. So to Danny's point, these are not the big ticket items, but these are the ones that can grind away and just leak out the back door, and you end up impacting that EBITDA that we're talking about, resale value. If you save $3,200 a year on this one item, this is one little line item. And if in your industry, you're typically sell your business on say a 3 times multiple of EBITDA, this is going to add $10,000 to the sale price of your business at the end of the day. This is just one little line item. 3,200 is going to be tripled at some point in time. In addition to just being good business along the way, if you're going to sell your business in 3 to 5 years, this one little line item will add 10 grand to the sale price of your business. Next slide. Just a couple other testimonials from other businesses reducing one of their cost items by 43% at the dental practice, and then an aesthetic center and spa was able to reduce their credit card costs by 42% and their phone costs by 42% and their credit card costs by 17%. So again, depending what the dollar value is, whatever they saved on an annual basis, going to contribute to EBITDA and sell and end up translating it by double or triple or sometimes higher. I met a guy the other day, and they typically their industry sells on 5 times EBITDA. So if you find a way to save 10 grand a year on one of your expenses, that might be worth 50 grand on the sales price, on the ticket price, the selling price at the end of the day. So that's why this is important. Even those little numbers and those little line items, 2,000 here, 5,000 there. Like I said, in addition to being good business, at the end of the day, they're going to add that much more to the sell price of your business. Go ahead, Rob.
So I'd like to introduce another set of questions here, but I also want to reposition these questions a little bit for those of you that aren't actual business owners, but provide services to business owners through selling to them or in contact with them to help them save money. One of the things about saving money, when you save money for a business owner, it opens up opportunities for them to buy other things. So having the mindset of I'm here to save you money, so that you can actually go do other things with that money that's more productive, that could be a really good sales conversation, particularly for those of you that are in business development with companies. So the key things that we want to talk about in this particular slide, and we want to reflect on for a few minutes: what areas of my business can we cut costs in? What are the 3 things I can do with cost cutting to enhance my business value the most? And we're going to give you a few minutes to think about that, and then we're going to chat about it again. But one of the key things that that I'd like to bring forward is Mickey mentioned it. You know, if you've got a three times EBITDA multiplier for the sale of a business, the way you change your business to be more attractive to a buyer will not just increase the value based on that 3 times EBITDA, but it could actually increase the multiple. Because if you're more efficient and more effective, somebody might be willing to pay even more for the business. So think of that as part of the conversation when you're pondering on this. So I'll let you start thinking now for a couple minutes, then we'll get into a conversation.
Yeah, so in the perspective of not just what you might do in your own business, because it might also be what can you do to contribute to your client, is what you're saying, Rob.
Exactly, yeah.
How you can help them become more efficient and be a genuine value add to your client.
Exactly.
So that they can eventually do better based on the relationship you've got with them. And that's really the role that we try and play, is that we find money sort of by reducing expenses, kind of like found money.
Yeah.
If you can generate some savings that they were going to send off to the phone company or the garbage handler or the utilities company.
But even beyond that, Mickey, thinking, you know, when you go into a business, asking the right questions and asking better questions gives you better answers. So if you're in a sales conversation with a client, ask the questions that may not be directly related to what you do, but that could help them, which it opens an opportunity for them to work with you.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common in the world of business development. You usually show your knowledge by asking smart questions, not by telling people how wonderful you are.
Yeah.
And the more you can demonstrate you understand their businesses and their challenges, the better likelihood you have of having that successful relationship going forward.
Exactly. It's creating the relationship, right?
That's right.
You know, they always ask 3 things. What's in it for me? Why should I trust you? And why should I care?
That's right.
Those are the 3 things in the back of every buyer's mind. So if you ponder on those as you're having your conversation, it's important, you know, that could help you position yourself as a preferred supplier or a preferred relationship for them.
Yeah, and too often as salespeople, because I'm really my own sales guy as well, I find my own clients. We think of talking about features and benefits and why what we do is so awesome, instead of talking about what their needs are and how we can help them, showing our understanding of their business by asking the right questions.
Exactly. So let's kick this off, and I won't pick on Nikki first. So let's chat with Jay had to go open the store. Tyler, let's chat with you first.
Okay, something that I could do is I could get a group of my clients together, and I could put together a group purchase organization for their materials. So if there's a number of people who need, say, wood, and a number of people who say need metal pipes, maybe I could find even a vendor that sells both of them and bring a bunch of people to them with the promise that they sell the material at a discounted price. Or I find a bunch of people that need lumber, and same deal.
Yep.
That's one thing I could do for my clients to cut their costs.
Yeah. How about your business value? Looking at your long-term business value, right? Don't know if you plan to sell in the future, but everybody should be considering setting themselves up for a sale. But what can you do to enhance your future value of your business in your cost cutting or cost management measures?
For my own business?
Yep.
At the moment, I can't really cut my costs any further than I already have. I'm paying pretty much bare bones as far as I know.
Yeah, Tyler's pretty early in his entrepreneurial journey there, Rob, but this is all good lessons, Tyler, going forward as things start to connect and grow, and wherever you end up, spending your energy. These are just great lessons for you to learn to keep an eye on both sides of that equation.
Yeah, and actually that was kind of where I was going with this, is build the cost management, cost evaluation structure into your actual business processes, rather than, I'll tell you a short story about myself. Is we never looked at the things like the telephone bill or the utilities from the perspective of how can I leverage strength to get our costs down. We just took what they gave us because we didn't know any better.
Not
Right?
everybody does. I did it myself for 30 years.
Exactly. So
And I hate to think about how much money I spent on credit card fees and phone bills and all the rest of it without.
I could
without
tell you
paying
how much,
attention to it.
I could
Yeah.
tell you in the hundreds of thousands of dollars we wasted over the years by not looking at this. So
Yeah.
it does make an impact. Elaine, your thoughts?
Well, I don't, my costs are pretty low. Like I have a home office, I don't have staff. My expenses are pretty basic, web hosting, cell phone. I got a vehicle that's older. I don't have vehicle payments.
You're
There's
on
not a
top
lot
of
of
it.
cutting I can do.
You're on top of this.
Yeah, but let's now talk about what you do for your clients, being your members, right? Do you bring value added conversations to them around cost management?
No, I guess not.
Because you're a member, you run an association for renovation contractors, correct?
Right. See,
That's
my job isn't to internally help them run their company. I had someone the other day suggest that someone come and speak about that sort of business stuff. Well, I'm not here to run people's business. There's 50 million other companies, consultants, meetup groups, whoever that can do that, or their own accountant or their business coaches, whoever.
So
I'm there to market them in general, not run
What's
their
your-
company for them.
if I
But
may, then what's your value add to your members?
Bringing them business and connecting them.
I like to push back a little on that, Elaine.
Yeah.
I think what you bring to your clients is they'd probably get a great ROI on marketing without having to hire a full-blown marketing company or hire an employee to do their marketing. Through a simple membership through your organization, they're getting exposure that they wouldn't get otherwise. That they see value.
And to add to that, my membership costs are disgustingly low, so they're getting a hell of a deal with me. You've got that right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you're actually, it's a strong ROI for them in terms of the business you bring them for the investment that they make.
Yeah.
So there's no question to get the same results through
They'd have
Google
to spend
ads, they have to
thousands.
spend 10 times as much.
Yeah. I got a new member a couple weeks ago. I gave her 2 referrals the day she signed up because we were on the phone. I said, hey, by the way. So yeah, she got her money's worth in one phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You don't diminish.
But as
that.
far as me helping them with business advice, no, they run their own business.
Yeah, but you could also provide direction, right? I mean, that's one of the things about any association that I've been involved with over the years is part of the role that they see themselves is to help their members become better at what they do, not just to give them business, right?
Right.
So it might be worthwhile, what do you, to ask the question occasionally, what are you doing to manage your costs? Do you have a newsletter?
No.
Do you have any sort of mass communications that you send out to those members?
Well, MailChimp, blogging about advertising and promoting and marketing my members. Yeah.
And
Well,
your
you
events.
can do the same thing from a cost management perspective.
And on different platforms like LinkedIn and stuff, I share information as well as far as data and business and industry business. Yeah.
See, those are opportunities in my mind for you to help them become better at what they do. And if you become a resource to them beyond just giving them referrals, you've all of a sudden become a valued resource, one that they can turn to. Hey, do you know anybody that does this? Right?
Yeah, you already get that. Elaine runs amazing networking events. Pre-COVID, she did an event, you get like 200 people show up who are all part of the same industry. So there's a real value add there for a low membership price.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity there that you could be missing that could enhance your visibility, quite frankly.
Well, if I only had that darn secretary, because my brain can only do so much in a day.
Well, then
I've been doing this over 20 years. I'm getting a little tired. Not gonna lie.
Okay, I'm gonna just move on to Jennifer. Thanks for that, Elaine.
Thank you.
As you went through those slides, Mickey, and since probably the last time that you and I had our last coffee, I've learned a lot and how to. I've developed out my network and how I approach businesses, and I think this is key for me to understand is, having how to have the conversation around the you know, what is your time as a business owner worth? How much time are you committing to the what's required for employee management, and then kind of break it down from there, and what that cost would look like as far as, you know, utilizing our services. If I could ask, you know, do you see a lot of businesses that actually approach the employee management and do that and look at that as a significant overhead, I guess?
Yeah, depending on the size of the business, there definitely are people that I see that are clients or that are just people in my network that they don't have any expertise in HR typically. Most businesses grew from small to whatever they are now. And because the person was really good at whatever their skill was, whether they were a plumber or a lawyer or whatever they were, HR was never part of the training. So if they're smart, they're outsourcing that HR piece of their business, just from a liability perspective and efficiency, if nothing else. But they're, I think the first point you made is probably the best in terms of what are they best at and what is their time worth.
Yeah.
They should be investing their time in the thing that they're absolutely the best at, that no one else in their business can do, and leave this stuff that they have little expertise in. They're probably going to take twice as long to do half as good of a job as someone like you or me would do to bring to the organization.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, one of the things that we've seen over the last few years is people looking at ways to manage their business more effectively. And quite frankly, looking at the biggest bottom line cost, which is employment, employees. How could you leverage outsourcing opportunities to manage those resources for you? Because quite frankly, many of these companies don't need a full-time HR person. Right.
No.
And yet what they do is they go out and hire one, and that person starts to do things that may not be in the best interest of, I'm not going to say not in the best interest of the company, but what I mean may not be fully engaged in what they need to be doing.
And
right?
not only that, if they leave, you have to start all over again. Whereas if you outsource it, it's always there.
Exactly.
But and I think that's part of what you need to do. And I think your message to a business owner, Jen, might be, in a similar conversation I had with someone else a couple of years ago, their goal as a business owner should be to try and make themselves dispensable. Right? If that person has to be at their job all day, every day, in order for the business to run, then it's going to be really hard to sell that business, because you're selling a job to somebody. You're not really selling a business. If you can take 2 months, go off to, like a business owner I know, he takes 2 months in Greece every summer. His business still thrives while he's on the beach. He has a business he can sell.
Yep.
If you have to be there from 6 a.m. to midnight every day, like I used to do back in the day, that wasn't a business. That was profitable and I was getting paid. But if I wasn't there, it would collapse. So that should be a goal. And things like identifying parts of your business that you can outsource so that you can build the business instead of be the business, then I think that's a great role that you would play to a business owner, Jen, and Nick, both.
Absolutely.
I even
Time
have
value
one
of money,
member.
right?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Elaine.
You
I
have
was
to
going to say,
look.
one of the members of a couple of the ones an HR company, but the other one is an accounting firm, and they offer literally part-time CFO. Not everyone needs a CFO on staff full-time. Same with
Exactly.
HR, all the things.
Yeah.
So it's in one I do actually do not business coaching, but guidance. A lot of my members, I talk to them on a personal basis or even business day. And one of them, I caught her doing her little GST stuff. And I said, well, that's really not the nature of your company. If you wanted to do GST, why did you start an accounting firm? So she was majoring in the minors, doing the wrong things, or in my opinion, putting her time where it could have been better spent doing what her company does.
Exactly.
So
Right.
a lot of small owners do that big mistake. I've never done my own books, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I was successsul. Yeah.
It's a cost benefit conversation that you need to have with your clients, but you have to, like Jennifer said, how do you frame it properly, right?
Yeah.
You've got to create the right framing for that conversation, or else it's not going to be successful. But at the end of the day, it boils down to, if you're having the conversation about, what's most cost effective for you and what are you good at, you could also extend that to beyond what your own services are to point out, hey, there are other people out there that could do that better for you as well. Because I
Right.
think a big part of being successful with a potential business owner is being more than just a resource for what you do.
Oh, yeah, be a value add, be a connector, you know, that's,
Exactly.
people see
Well,
value.
in conversations that I have, same thing. Like one year I found 6 people jobs just because the other day I've taken 3 people to one lady that's looking to hire a part-time person in her showroom. So, and again, I have those conversations all the time. So I guess I do business guide my members. I just do it. I guess I just do it by nature. So I never really analyzed the fact that I actually do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Or do that. Yeah.
Nikki, just moving along a little bit. Nikki, any thoughts? Any further?
You know what? I concur with everything that you have been saying. I mean, I think that the biggest thing that we offer is to allow people to do what they do best and let somebody else do the stuff that just has to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like to me, it's almost like an opportunity cost. If you're a business owner and you're burning the midnight oil, doing the books and sifting through Indeed to find staff or stuff that's not your core competency, then
Right.
all that energy is being wasted on stuff that you can get someone else to do much cheaper and do a much better job of it. And now all your horsepower is going towards the stuff that you're great at.
Yeah.
So that's I think the key message. So.
And that's where the money's made, right? For companies is
Now we just have to get the business owners to believe that.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
I've been that guy. It's cheaper
Yeah.
to do it yourself. I'll just do everything myself. From the time I get
Yeah.
up from dark till dark, I'll do everything myself. It's cheaper. At the end of the day, you got no energy left and you're doing
No
a
life.
shitty job of the stuff you're supposed to be good at because you used all your time up doing stuff you're not even any good at. So.
Saving pennies to cost you dimes, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
Excellent. Thanks for your feedback, everybody. So let's move on. One of the big things that Mickey's going to talk about is just this. Get help.
Yeah. And I think we just been through that. Like we keep doing the same thing we've always done, then we'll keep getting the same
results.
Yeah, it's called insanity, and business owners need to understand that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about Mexit. I'm sorry, I'm going to take it back from Mickey for a second as we close off here, but you know, most key advisors create value. Part of looking at building an exit plan for a business, along with managing your costs effectively, is getting the right people to help you at the right time, right? So the big thing about creating value in a business, if you're planning to sell it, is you have to do it consciously and you have to do it before the deal actually occurs. It's very seldom that once a business owner starts walking down the path of selling their business that they can actually increase the value of that deal. So there are key people that are going to be involved in every process when you're engaged in getting a company ready for sale. There's the accountant, there's the lawyers, there's the financial advisors, there's the tax specialist, because each of these play an important role. There's the broker or sales agent. There's the key employees who are going to be involved in the continuing operation of the business. And there's what we call ourselves the Mexit advisors, who help the owners we empower the owners to plan and execute on maximizing the value before they actually sell. So if you're looking at potentially having clients, or you're looking at selling your own business, there's some things that need to be done in advance to understand where you're at currently in regards to your business. And what we do is we take people through an owner legacy and value builder survey assessment that helps give them an idea of where their business is currently. We do a half-day team transformation workshop to see whether or not there's an opportunity to help them and whether or not the team is in a position that they can be helped. We then debrief the owner and move to a proposal on how we can assist the team. Then we look at setting up the actual process to help them out. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate your time and your comments. And I'd like to especially thank Mickey for his help today on helping us put together this maximizing the value of your business by understanding and managing your costs. So Mickey, thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. I hope you got some value out of this session.
Yes, definitely. It's great information. Mickey, thank you for the invite as well.
Anytime, Elaine. And Tyler, I'm going to see you later today, coincidentally. And Jen and Nikki, we should get together. Jen, we need another. I love Jennifer's coffee meetings.
Yeah.
I said, let's go for coffee. How's 10 a.m.? She goes, Well, I'd prefer to have a beer. And I said, that sounds like a 4 p.m. meeting then. So we had a
It's
coffee.
5 o'clock somewhere, Mickey. It's
Yeah, but
5 o'clock
that's a
somewhere.
real warning too, just in case, she says, I want a beer at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, if I start drinking at 10 o'clock, I need a pretty long afternoon nap. So
Yeah.
You gotta have fun while you're working.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Okay.
Rob, before we hang up, I just had and Mickey too, I just had a couple extra questions
You bet.
in regards to the home exit program. What size of companies do you typically focus on for your
For the
program?
exit planning process, it's typically a $3+ million a year business with a small management team. And that's in revenue when I say $1 million a year. However, we also offer, Brad and I also offer exit planning for smaller businesses.
But it's a little bit different program than the full-blown exit.
Yeah, it's a different program than Mexit. We focus traditionally just on the value builder program. The Mexit program is really a team transformation and owner plan program, whereas the value builder program is typically focused on owner operators that don't have much of a management team.
Okay, so the reason why I'm asking is because I come across while I'm out doing my thing and connecting with business owners, we come across a lot of startups, and it's interesting. Like, part of my conversations with these startups is that, okay, well, what's your strategy? What's your growth strategy? And what's your five-year plan, 10-year plan? And because as an investor as well, I want to understand, if I'm investing in this company, are they just going to turn around and flip it, or is this going to be a long-term relationship? So would that be an ideal? So if somebody was looking to sell their company and they identified that they want to turn it around and sell it within 5 years, would that be an ideal referral to you?
Absolutely. I mean, Mexit is just one of the things that Brad and I do, and that's our key focus right now, because we've got so many businesses in Alberta business owners in Alberta that need help to get out of their businesses. But we also do strategic planning and operations planning for smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses. The Mexit process itself is what our focus is for today, because that's where the biggest need right now in Alberta is, particularly.
So I have another question for you, because this would be a good fit for, like I said, a lot of conversations that I do have. But I would be curious for your feedback in regards to one of your last slides there, that you had all of the different people that you that need to be part of a successful exit.
Yep.
I didn't, and maybe I'm missing it, but I didn't see anything about the human capital aspect of that. What is that going to look like when a company sells to the employees? Do they get transferred over to the new business? Who's going to stay? Who's going to go? So the assistance with that.
Okay, let me help you out with that one, because I'm just going to share my screen again, but I'm going to go back to a piece that we didn't really spend a lot of time on, because it really wasn't the focus of our time today.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
If you look at this particular slide, in the center, I'm going to just see if I can pull this up, make that. Oh, no, I got to go back up because of the way this works. Sometimes I really hate Zoom.
Will you be emailing this recording, Robert?
We certainly can. But if you take a look at the strategic planning process in the middle at the bottom, you'll notice that there's an organizational design and restructuring, organizational capacity building, change management, and organizational trend. The entire process is a human capital process built around a strategic planning framework.
And then that's looked after by you guys then.
We have a toolbox around this, and we bring in the experts where needed. So when we're actually looking at the role that a PEO would bring, we would talk to the company about what is your HR. We would build their HR planning process, and we'd look for the best way to make that happen, and bring in the experts to help build the right plan.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense? Yeah,
absolutely. And Mickey, I'm so glad that we reconnected on this call today, because it was a good, I need to go back, because I need to do build out my conversations and my checklist, and I'd like to maybe get some proper language again from you on, if I could, bullet point 2 questions to ask every single company that I speak with. That would be great.
Well, we should have another coffee and talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I come? I want to learn about this too.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah, I think-
do you drink a lot of coffee or?
Me? No,
Yeah.
I'm with Jen.
Good. I meant coffee, sorry. Do you
Yeah,
drink
coffee. Yeah, that's fine.
She's not a coffee drinker. She'll have to figure out something else.
There's
We'll
plenty
figure
to choose from.
Well, let me know. Let's definitely connect and I think